They say the future is unwritten, but they're wrong. The future isn't some distant mist waiting to be discovered. It's not a hidden treasure buried under layers of fate and chance. The future is claimed, seized by those who dare to believe it's already theirs. There's a presence you feel when someone walks into a room with purpose, not arrogance, not noise, just certainty. It's the silent declaration of someone who has already seen the vision, already lived it in their mind, already walked the road in the theater of their soul, and now they're simply arriving. Success doesn't answer to hope. It bows to conviction. Before Edison lit the world, he held thousands of failed experiments in his hands. But to him, they weren't failures. They were inevitable steps toward what he knew was his. A man fumbling in the dark with a dream brighter than any filament, not asking if, only asking how soon. The world doesn't yield to the unsure. It moves for the decided. It opens to those who don't knock politely but walk as if the door was already open, as if the building was already theirs. Because life has a scent. It smells certainty. And like blood to a shark, it comes rushing to those who reek of belief. So act like it's already yours. Walk like it, speak like it, plan like it, move like the ink has already dried in the book of your life, and success is merely catching up to the destiny you've already signed for. This isn't fantasy. This is the law of being. You do not become what you wish for. You become what you are willing to embody now. Look around. Everything you see, every tower, every product, every empire once lived in the unseen. In the minds of those bold enough to say, this belongs to me, not someday, not if I'm lucky. Now, before the first dollar was earned, before the first brick was laid, they stood in front of nothing and declared ownership. Because faith isn't blind. It's visionary. It sees through the fog. It builds the bridge before the river is crossed. Henry Ford didn't ask the world if it was ready for the automobile. He decided it was. When others laughed at the idea of replacing the horse, he didn't flinch. Because in his world, the road was already paved. He didn't wait for permission. He acted as if the future had already arrived. And that is where the divide is drawn. Not between rich and poor, not between the fortunate and the forgotten, but between those who wait for reality to catch up with their dreams, and those who bring reality to its knees through the force of their will. The moment you decide to act like it's already yours, you stop being a beggar at the table of life. You become the architect. This is the inner revolution. Not the kind that asks for change, but the kind that declares it. You must understand mindset is not some decoration for your bookshelf. It is the lever that shifts worlds. Your beliefs are blueprints, and if they are shaky, incomplete, or borrowed from those who've never built anything, you will construct a life that collapses at the first wind of resistance. But when your mindset is forged in conviction, when you no longer ask the world for evidence before you act, something radical begins to happen. You stop moving toward your vision. You start moving from it. That's the shift. That's where kings are made. That's where the invisible becomes visible. The dream becomes the standard, and the impossible becomes the inevitable. You're not chasing anymore. You're leading. You're not manifesting through wishful thinking. You're manifesting through alignment. When Napoleon Hill wrote that, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve, he wasn't delivering a poetic line. He was handing you the code to reality. But the modern world, it wants shortcuts. It wants manifestation without mentality. It wants the harvest without the discipline of planting. But the great ones, they know better. Walt Disney didn't build Disneyland with concrete first. He built it with clarity, with sketches, blueprints, with music playing in his head before a single ride existed. He took bank loans with nothing but a smile and a vision, not because he was reckless, but because he was certain. He didn't wonder if it would work. He knew, so he moved like it, spoke like it, built like it. The world always bends eventually to those who refuse to bend themselves. But let's get brutally honest. Certainty doesn't come from wishbones. It's forged in fire. in the quiet hours when nobody's watching, when you choose to rise when the bed whispers seduction, when you turn down distractions for discipline, when you study not for applause, but for precision. Certainty is earned in private, then revealed in public. The world will call it luck, but you'll know it was built. See, most people are addicted to doubt. They think they're being realistic when really they're being tamed. Life has taught them to fear belief, to worship smallness, to avoid disappointment by avoiding expectation altogether. But tell me, who changed the world by being careful? Not Lincoln, not Mandela, not Jobs. These were men who stood before the thunder of impossibility and laughed, because they didn't ask life for favors. They acted like it was already theirs. And what you embody, you attract. Not because the universe is magical, but because you become magnetic. Your energy changes, your choices sharpen, you walk different, talk different. Suddenly, the people who once doubted you begin to wonder if maybe, just maybe, you were right all along. And even if they don't, it doesn't matter. Because this journey isn't about applause, it's about arrival. It's about knowing who you are before the world does, about walking into rooms and knowing you belong before the invitation arrives. This is the frequency of legends. They don't show up to prove themselves, they show up to fulfill themselves. So stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop negotiating with your future as if it's optional. It's not. It's yours, if you act like it. The greatest lie ever sold is that you must wait to feel worthy, that somehow you have to earn the right to step forward, to dream big, to believe with fire, to move with the conviction of kings and queens. But you weren't born to ask permission. You were born to remember who you are. A child doesn't question if they deserve to run. They just run. A lion doesn't check the weather before it hunts. It simply moves because instinct speaks louder than hesitation. You were built with that same fire, that same divine machinery humming beneath your skin. But somewhere along the way, society trained it out of you, told you to sit still, to shrink, to be humble in the name of politeness when really they meant silent. But hear this truth. Humility is not silence. Humility is confidence without noise. And confidence is not loud, it's present. You don't need to shout to own the room. You only need to know. Know that your ideas have value. Know that your voice matters. Know that the life you imagine in secret is not a fantasy, it's a preview. A whisper from the future, calling you back to the truth you already knew as a child, that you are capable, worthy, unstoppable now. Not after the degree, not after the promotion, not after they believe in you, but now, because belief doesn't follow success. Success follows belief. You've seen it. The person with half your talent, half your skill, but twice your certainty, walking into rooms, claiming opportunities, building momentum, not because they were better, but because they believed longer than you were willing to. Certainty is rare, and the rare is valuable. So when you wear it not as a mask, but as a muscle, the world leans in. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Confidence isn't born, it's built, brick by brick, decision by decision, promise by promise kept with yourself, every time you do the hard thing. Every time you show up when quitting was easier. Every time you silence the inner critic and say, "We're doing this anyway." That's how you earn your certainty, through consistency. Discipline isn't a punishment, it's the pathway to freedom. The schedule you hate is the skeleton of your greatness. The sacrifices you make are the seeds of your future peace. Because there's nothing more magnetic than the person who knows they'll get there and walks like it, even when it's raining, even when it's quiet, even when no one claps. Clarity, discipline, relentless belief. These are not just motivational buzzwords, they are tools, weapons, shields. And if you wield them, life will not deny you. Because most people never finish the race. They don't fail because they weren't good enough. They fail because they stopped showing up. They traded destiny for distraction, vision for validation. But you don't get to do that anymore. Because once you've seen what's possible, Once you've tasted that version of yourself that lives fully alive, you can't go back to sleep. And you can't fake certainty. The world knows the difference. It's in your walk, your tone, your posture. When someone speaks from a place of knowing, the air bends, time slows, and doubt disappears because it has no place where truth is fully embodied. You don't need more inspiration. You need ignition. You don't need more content. You need commitment. The moment you decide not hope, not wish, but decide, the gears begin to turn. The right people start showing up. The doors you thought were locked begin to creak open. Why? Because you're no longer asking if it's yours. You're simply collecting what you've already claimed in spirit. This is not law of attraction in the Instagram sense. This is not about crystals on your shelf or mantras on your mirror. This is law of action, of alignment, of embodied energy that the world cannot ignore. Because when you are certain, you become dangerous. To fear, to mediocrity, to your old self. And that old version of you, the one who hesitated, who waited for proof, who doubted every next step, they will scream on their way out. They will beg you to slow down, to stay safe. But do not listen. That voice is not your friend. It is the ghost of who you were. And ghosts don't build empires. Listen instead to the voice beneath it, the quiet one, the true one, the one that whispers. Keep going. It's already yours. You see, destiny isn't some lightning strike. It's not random. It's a whisper that grows louder with every aligned step. And one day you wake up inside the life you once visualized. And everyone calls it success. But you'll call it recognition. Recognition of the life you already saw. Recognition of the vision that you nurtured when no one clapped, when no one watched, when no one understood. You are not becoming that person. You are that person. Act like it. You don't need proof to move. You move, and proof shows up. That's the paradox. That's the law. The world tells you to wait, to be rational, to be careful, to have guarantees before you leap. But the universe, it waits for no one. It favors those who go first, who lead, who decide. There's no applause in the beginning, only silence. Only the sound of your own breath as you step into the unknown with nothing but vision in your chest and defiance in your spine. But here's the truth. When you move with faith, the silence becomes a symphony. You start to hear the rhythm of reality bending around your steps. You start to see the invisible threads pulling in your favor, not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. Remember this. Hesitation is the enemy of momentum. The longer you wait, the louder your doubts grow. The longer you wait, the heavier the dream becomes to carry. You weren't meant to tiptoe through life hoping for safety. You were built to run with fire. You were designed to burn the map and walk like you've already been where you're going. Certainty doesn't need a GPS. It has an internal compass. Purpose, intuition, spirit. When you're locked in, when the fire in your belly is stronger than the noise around you, you become untouchable. There is no rejection that can defeat you, no delay that can derail you, no storm that can stop you, because you've already arrived in your mind, and now your body is just catching up. This is how leaders are made. Not by the world choosing them, but by them choosing themselves first. Not by waiting to be chosen, but by rising to become the one who chooses. Think of Rosa Parks. One woman, one seat, one act of certainty that changed history. She didn't wait for permission to act with dignity. She didn't ask the world to validate her worth. She knew it. And in that knowing, she altered the course of an entire nation. Certainty doesn't need an army. It just needs one soul on fire. And that can be you. But you must stop outsourcing your power. Stop waiting for conditions to be perfect, for the critics to be quiet, for the fear to be gone. Conditions will never be perfect. Critics will never be silent. And fear? It never fully disappears, but it does get drowned out when the voice of purpose grows louder. So let me ask you, whose voice are you listening to? The world's, the past, the fear, or the quiet roar inside you that says, there's more? Because that voice, the one that wakes you up at 2 a.m. with ideas, the one that imagines a different life, even when the current one is loud and full of demands, that's not a mistake. That's your calling, trying to survive in a world that wants you average. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break patterns, to make ancestors proud and generations grateful. But it starts with the decision, the one decision that rewrites your story. I will move like it's already mine. No more wishing. No more explaining. No more waiting for consensus. You don't need a round of applause. You need a round of action. Do something today that your future self will thank you for. Not something big, not something perfect, just something with intention. Something that says, I'm serious, I'm coming, and I won't stop. Because once you commit, truly commit, life has a strange way of opening up. Not instantly, but gradually. Like a curtain being drawn back on a stage built just for you. And if it doesn't open, kick it down. You don't sit on the porch of destiny hoping to be invited in. You knock like thunder. You show up like the storm. You arrive like prophecy fulfilled. Because the future belongs to the certain, not the brilliant, not the wealthy, not the connected, but the certain, the ones who see it before it's real, who act before it's visible, who become before they are noticed. Your future is not something you wait for. It's something you remember. You've already touched it in your dreams. You've already lived it in your heart. Now walk it, speak it, own it. And if the world resists good, let it. Resistance is proof that the old is fighting to survive. But you're here to replace it. The world isn't changed by those who follow rules. It's changed by those who redefine them. So redefine yourself. Stop performing. Start becoming. Stop begging for scraps of confidence. Start building certainty from your actions. Act like it's already yours, and the world will eventually believe you. Even the mountains will move for the certain. There's a moment when the inner switch flips, when belief turns into embodiment, when hope dissolves and what remains is knowing. It's not loud, it doesn't announce itself, but it changes everything. You stop chasing and start channeling. You stop forcing and start flowing. You stop begging life for proof, because you are the proof. You walk into rooms not wondering if you belong, but understanding that your presence shifts the frequency, that you don't need to compete, you command. That's what certainty feels like, not arrogance, not noise, but gravity. It pulls people in. It pulls vision toward you. It aligns events, opens roads, draws bridges where cliffs once stood. And no, it doesn't mean every day will be easy, but every day will be yours. You'll still fall, but you'll fall forward. You'll still bleed, but the wound will remind you you're alive. You'll still face doubt, but it won't decide for you, because the power is back where it belongs, in your hands. Understand this. Every time you delay your purpose, you leave a space in the world unfilled. A gap where your genius, your fire, your voice should be. You weren't sent here to blend in. You were sent here to build, to break, to believe, and to become. And to become, you must declare before you see. Act before you're ready. Trust before the applause. Speak when your voice shakes. Move when your legs tremble. Stand when the world says sit. That is what greatness demands. Not perfection, but participation. Not magic, but movement. Not certainty that things will go smoothly, but certainty that you will go on. Think of Mandela. Locked in a cell, forgotten by the world, treated as a number, yet he knew. He knew his purpose. He knew who he was. He acted like a president before they ever gave him the title. Because true power isn't conferred. It's remembered. And when you remember who you are, when you strip off the rust of insecurity, the chains of delay, the dust of doubt, you reveal something terrifyingly beautiful. Potential made flesh. A living, breathing declaration to the universe, I am no longer waiting. And at that moment, everything shifts. Life meets you where you stand. It echoes back the energy you emit. It delivers not what you deserve, but what you demand through presence. Not the loud kind, the real kind. The kind that shows up in your work, in your words, in your posture, in the silence after failure when you whisper, "Let's go again." Because you're not driven by outcome anymore. You're driven by alignment. And that makes you dangerous. To excuses, to mediocrity, to every version of you that once played small. You see, the clock is ticking not on your dream, but on your fear. It's running out of time because you're done feeding it. You're done shrinking for other people's comfort, done apologizing for wanting more, done pretending you don't feel the fire when you do. Let others call it delusion. Let them call it arrogance. They called it that when Elon launched rockets, when Oprah built an empire, when Serena picked up her first racket. They call it crazy until it's reality. But your job is not to convince them. Your job is to keep becoming it, to show up like it's already yours, to train like it, to create like it, to speak like it, to breathe like it, to rise every single day, not with the question, "Can I?" but with the statement, "Watch me," because you know the truth now. The future doesn't belong to the smartest, or the fastest, or the luckiest. It belongs to the certain. And that certainty it's built in every early morning, in every lonely night, in every no that doesn't stop you, in every failure you turn into fuel, in every second you spend becoming the version of you the world has yet to meet. So write the book, make the move, launch the idea, start the thing, cut the cord, speak the truth, bet on yourself, take the shot, act like it's already yours. Because the future, it's not coming. It's waiting for the bold, for the brave, for the relentless, for the certain. And now it waits for you.